Story 1. The Cast. My household consisted of a handful of people. My uncle's kid. My uncle had gotten remarried almost 20 years ago and picked up a new kid as a bonus. I don't like the term cousin-in-law. I never spent much time with him, so to me, he's just my uncle's kid. A dog. We watch friends' dogs often when they go on vacation. We get to play with one for a while, and we have no vet or food bills, never have to deal with sick pets, and we don't have to make arrangements if we go on vacation. This dog, I think, was something like a Rottweiler that reminded me a little of Blue Eye's dad. Around 80 pounds, muscular, and clearly not the kind of dog to mess with. My uncle's kid had just finished his first year at university, majoring in goofing off, chasing girls, typical freshman year activities. By the end of the year, he didn't want to go back home because now he was a grown-up, clever, sophisticated, and a college student. He had tasted freedom and independence and found that he liked it. I've been there, so when my uncle asked if we could host him for the summer, I said yes. He had a car, his own spending money, was housebroken, and I had an extra room. Of course, I agreed. One day, the dog arrived for a week-long stay. We told my uncle's kid in advance when the dog was coming. He, being the self-declared master of all things including dogs, despite never having had one, responded with the kind of attitude that said, "Sure, okay, whatever." This dog was very well trained. He would bark to alert us that strangers were around and would growl if his owners for the week seemed threatened. However, he would never attack unless told to or unless we were actually in danger. My uncle's kid had shut himself up in his room when the dog arrived. About 30 minutes later, he noisily came out and headed toward the kitchen, where he encountered us and the dog as we were helping the dog settle in. Suddenly, this loud kid appeared out of nowhere and startled the dog, who immediately began barking, as if to say, "Stranger, do you all see this? There's a stranger right there. Are you paying attention?" What should have happened? We tell the dog to sit. The other person slowly approaches to allow a sniff, then pets the dog. All is well. What actually happened? This young man, whose behavior made me so upset that I temporarily refused to admit anyone this lacking in sense was related to me, challenged the dog. He puffed himself up as large as he could and marched toward the dog while barking at the top of his lungs. Yes, the kid was barking. When the dog wouldn't stop barking, he began shouting as many curse words as he could, as fast and as loud as possible, before switching back to barking. We told him to calm down, back off, and sit. But he started yelling that he was the alpha dog and needed to establish dominance. According to him, he was the master and deserved unquestioning respect from the dog. The dog was not impressed. He got into an aggressive stance, ears back, teeth showing, growling, rear raised, front lowered, clearly begging for permission to attack. The kid suddenly didn't feel quite so confident about his choices. He stopped barking. In a bit of a panic, he grabbed the bag of training treats and poured half of it onto the floor, then retreated to the far end of the couch, clutching the treat bag like a shield. We calmed the dog down and brought him over to the kid for a proper sniff. The young man started feeding treats to the dog like he was dropping coins into a slot machine and refused to stop. He said he needed to teach the dog that he was a friend. Between the pile dumped on the floor and this prolonged session of impulsive feeding, it took him about 15 minutes to burn through what would normally last us 2 months during a typical dog sitting stint. Epilogue. For the rest of the week, the dog would occasionally let out a low growl, not aggressive, not with teeth showing, just a short, quiet rumble from his closed mouth. Each time, the kid would panic, grab a handful of treats, and hand them over without hesitation. I'd say the training went remarkably well, and the matter of who was the top dog between the two of them was firmly settled. Story 2. Location: A&E, Accident and Emergency Department, Miners Area. People that can mobilize, who don't need a stretcher, mainly people with minor injuries or illnesses. Background: 4 years ago in a busy and short-staffed A&E department, I came on shift at 19:30 p.m. and received the handover. 60 patients in the waiting room and almost 4 hours waiting to be seen, including a middle-aged man that was demanding to be seen because he had an appointment. Now, in that specific hospital, you could be given an appointment for the dressing clinic that was run by the A&E staff in the mornings, only if your GP primary care couldn't offer that service. It seemed he missed his morning appointment and was demanding to be seen. On to the story. I was coordinating that area and I had one nurse to help me. Yep, 2 nurses for 60 patients. I couldn't leave my desk for too long, as I was also liaising with the doctors and the specialists to prevent the waiting time to be even longer. Here comes the entailed person waving his appointment sheet and demanding to be seen. He tells me he had an appointment for the dressing clinic and he needs his dressing changed now. I explained to him the dressing clinic only operates in the mornings, so now he would have to wait for his turn. He scoffs back to the waiting room shouting profanities. Not even 15 minutes have gone by. He comes back screaming even louder. I asked him to show me the appointment sheet, and it turns out he had an appointment for the vascular clinic to change his dressing, not even for the A&E clinic. This was strange as the vascular outpatient clinic operates independently from us, so I asked him more questions about it. It turns out he had an appointment at the vascular department in the morning. Patients were given the time slots that suit them, so he chose the appointment time, but couldn't be bothered to attend, so he presented himself at the vascular clinic at closing time demanding to be seen. The vascular staff told him they were closed for the day and he could go to an A&E. I again told him he couldn't skip the queue and his appointment sheet is worthless in A&E. He kept shouting louder, saying it wouldn't take too long, so we should just change his dressing and get over it. Now, in A&E we only store general dressings for common stuff, and we didn't have what he would need, so we would have to go to the vascular ward to get the material needed and make sure we had his previous notes to continue with the treatment. Notes were handwritten and then scanned, so unlikely they would already be on the system. Also, on night shifts, there is no vascular doctor. There is only one junior surgical doctor that covers vascular and orthotrauma. I bleeped him and explained that he had a patient that was vascular and had nothing to do with A&E, so he needed to come down and sort him out. He refused because he is only a surgical junior doctor. I then called the vascular consultant on call and explained the situation. This EP was not A&E responsibility because his appointment was with the vascular team and he should be given an appointment for next day instead of being sent to A&E and B. We don't have the material needed to change his dressing. His answer: what do you want me to do? Go over there. My answer: I don't care. Your department shouldn't dump patients in A&E. At this time, the senior doctor was in the waiting room calling patients to be seen, and this entitled man was physically preventing patients from going through the doors, saying if he's not seen next, then no one else would be seen. The senior doctor was twice his size and told him to back off and called security. What did security do? Nothing, because they didn't have the restraining course, so they're not allowed to touch patients. Utterly useless. Chaos was ruling that department, as expected, and the man decided to come again to my desk demanding to be seen and to skip the queue. When I, again, told him the only reason he can skip the queue is if there is a medical reason, and he says he will go home and get his gun to shoot me and the senior doctor. My answer was, be my guest, I'll be here all night. He stormed off to the waiting room and I called the police, who arrived in about 10 minutes. At this time the man was nowhere to be seen and we gave his details and address to the police. I haven't seen this man since, and, thankfully, no one was waiting for me with a gun at the end of my shift. Incident reports were done. Case was escalated to the vascular and A&E director, who both agreed outpatient clinics shouldn't dump patients in A&E. I never heard the outcome of the police investigation. Oh, and the junior surgical doctor appeared in A&E more than 2 hours later to do the dressing. Story 3. I should explain where my house is situated for this to make sense. I live directly next to a parking lot that has a daycare next to it. But there is enough room so that when the snowplows come, They create a snowbank on some grass in between my driveway's fence and the parking lot. It was getting late, so I decided to shovel, and I should mention that the kids, of which there are 3, like to carve out the bank, throwing snow onto the lot, and then bunker down and throw snowballs onto cars and passerby, and the parents do absolutely nothing about it. When I shovel, I like to throw the snow onto the bank. Keep in mind, not the ones the children play at, but one diagonally across, making sure it doesn't go onto the driveway. This particular day, though, the snow was a little bit harder to shovel because the children were bringing bottles of water and throwing the contents onto my snowy driveway. They started targeting me with a couple snowballs and screeching, and I mean screeching, about how they want me to play with them. And just so it isn't weird, I'm 14, not like an old dude. I say that no. In fact, I don't want to play with them, and they start bawling and run back to their house. Next couple minutes go by, and I'm just shoveling until the mother comes over. Mother, why won't you play with my damn kids? Me, because I'm shoveling. That's not an excuse. I demand you play with them immediately. No. At this point, the mother stomps the ground, and me, not wanting any of her nonsense, goes inside my house. Her, being persistent, decides to knock on my door. My mom goes to the door asking what's up. Your son was being rude and punched my children and threw snow on them. My mom said, sorta laughing, no, he didn't. Yes, he did. No, he didn't. I heard you through the walls, and this is the first time I'm hearing about any punching. She scoffs, whatever, jerks, and leaves. Next time, I'm shoveling indoors. Story 4. Hey everyone. So this happened back in December. I was listening to a story about another user who had their purple Yoda plush toy stolen, and it immediately reminded me of the Kirby situation I experienced at the mall. I want to start this by saying I am a huge Kirby fan. The first game I ever played and completely fell in love with was Kirby's Dream Land 3 on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Currently, I have a mini Christmas Kirby plush, a small Cook Kirby plush, a Kirby figurine set where you can stack them, a Kirby poster, a Kirby skin for my Nintendo Switch and dock, and a Kirby Smash Bros. Amiibo from the Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS and Wii U era. One thing I've noticed about Kirby is that he isn't the most popular Nintendo character when it comes to merchandise. I mostly see items for Mario, Pokémon, and The Legend of Zelda. I love all three, but finding anything Kirby related is like stumbling upon a unicorn made of gold and diamonds. While shopping at the mall with my sister for our nieces and nephews, we wandered into a collectibles shop that was filled wall to wall with pop culture figures and other memorabilia. I was fixated on the posters they had on display until my sister pointed out a big Cook Kirby plush. They had a few placed high up on a shelf. Immediately, I made a beeline to the register, pulling out my phone to check my credit card balance through my banking app, practically begging to know the price of the Cook Kirby. The cashier chuckled and told me it was $40. I was so excited that I started bouncing like I was 5 years old because all I could think about was hugging my brand new Kirby plush. My sister took care of finding some Dragon Ball toys for our nephews while I handled my purchase. We checked out, and the cashier handed me a fresh Cook Kirby plush in a plastic bag. He bagged up my items, and I'm not exaggerating when I say I hugged that bag like it was a long-lost friend. Our next stop was a toy store to find Hello Kitty, mermaids, and unicorns for our nieces. As I reached up to grab a small Hello Kitty backpack for a closer look, I heard a little voice say, "Mommy, look, it's a Jigglypuff." At first, I wasn't paying attention. I was too busy inspecting the bag for a price tag and checking how deep it was. I was so focused that I didn't realize someone was trying to get my attention until I felt a tap on my shoulder. I flinched slightly and let out a sigh before saying, "Oh, yes." I found myself face to face with a sporty-looking mom and her 6-year-old child. The mother asked, "Where did you get the Jigglypuff?" I looked down at the Hello Kitty backpack in my hands, feeling a bit confused. She rolled her eyes and clarified, "No, the toy in your bag." She pointed to my plastic shopping bag, where Kirby's little pink face and chef hat were peeking out. That's when it hit me, they thought Kirby was Jigglypuff. I chuckled and said, "That's actually Kirby, not Jigglypuff, and I got it from the store on the other side of the mall." The child quickly turned to their mother and said, "Mom, let's go, I want one." The mother thanked me, and I smiled, thinking I had been helpful. I assumed that was the end of it. But I was wrong. After helping the mom and her child, my sister and I headed to the food court to grab something to eat. We both ended up ordering some delicious Philly cheesesteaks and were halfway through enjoying our meal when I heard a loud, "Oh great, we found you." Being naturally curious, I turned around to see the same mother and child from earlier rushing toward our table. My sister looked puzzled and asked, "Do you know her?" I shook my head while sipping my soda to clear my mouth before answering. The mother wasted no time. So, we went to the store, and they were out of that Jigglypuff plush toy. My sister, who happens to be a huge Jigglypuff fan, perked up and asked, "Wait, there was a Jigglypuff plush toy." I clarified, "No, they confused Kirby for Jigglypuff." My sister gave a small pout, disappointed. Then the mother continued, "I was wondering, can we have yours?" I simply said, "No." Her child whined loudly, "But I want it." The mom added, "Oh come on, you look too old to be playing with plush toys anyway." I responded calmly, "Doesn't matter. I paid for it. It's mine." She tried to push again. "Oh come on." Then, without warning, she reached for my bag. I immediately held it close to my chest. At that point, her child started stomping their feet in frustration, and honestly, I was beyond done with the whole situation. I looked her in the eye and said firmly, "I don't have the energy to deal with you or your child. The answer is no, and will remain no until the end of time. Thank you, and have a great day." My sister was quietly chuckling into her sandwich the whole time. The mother looked as if I had just insulted her entire family. I couldn't help but smirk as a playful idea popped into my head. Her child then tried to grab the bag again, stomping and kicking. As soon as I felt a tug, I turned dramatically and shouted in my best Gene Wilder impression from Willy Wonka, "Good day, sir?" By this point, a few heads had turned to watch the scene unfold. The mother blushed furiously, grabbed her child, and rushed off without another word. As for me, I still love my giant Cook Kirby plush, and I hug him all the time. Story 5. So the story goes like this. I'm asked to go get some groceries. I tend to shop at Wood Guys. It's a nice big store, great service, great variety. I take my cousin Paris with me because she needs a few things. Now, an important thing to note is that I am 6 foot 3 inches and black. My cousin Paris is not. She is as white as the snow-capped peaks of the mountains of Caucasus. Paris is not her real name, but she is named after a place like that, and so is her sister. Paris has baby blue eyes, platinum blonde hair, dimples, and looks like someone fused Billie Eilish and Phoebe Cates together and made them Snow White. I'll admit that she's really pretty, which is actually relevant to the story. She is my uncle's stepdaughter and has been hanging around me a lot since I got back in town. Now everything's going well. I grab me some Usingers, spend some time staring forlornly in the ramen aisle, go check and get some meats, both real and fake, and just generally minding my own business. Paris and I split up, because she was asking me some uncomfortable questions about feminine products, and as mature as I believe I am, that's no man's land and only my wife is going to get me to listen to you talk about that stuff. So, I head off to make some life and health decisions about some chips. I want to get flamin' hot Doritos, maybe get some Rico's nacho cheese, get you some chorizo, some chunky salsa, and some ground beef and you've got something. But that's a very serious bathroom visit later in the day, especially for me. Do I want to risk the holy hell I'm gonna feel if I go that route? I'm very serious in consideration. This is why I probably didn't hear this lady when she called me the first couple of times. I only notice her when she walks up. She was white, middle-aged, and dressed like she was 20. Not a good look. I remember scoffing at her brand new Buccaneers jersey, but she had on a Patriots coat and booty shorts. The jersey was one of those ones that show midriff, and I have to admit she didn't really look like she took care of her skin. I also have a problem with people who dress cute when it's cold. I'm thinking all kinds of negative stuff from the start. She couldn't be more offensive unless she was rocking a Kevin King jersey. She starts up with the, "Are you gonna help me or not?" Very rude tone. Hands on the hips, animated, that whole neck-shaking thing. I'm like, huh? So she starts listing things, saying she asked for this and that, and for me to go see where the butcher was. He apparently wasn't at his post. I was confused and asked her what she was on about, and she got mad, telling me that she already asked all this and wouldn't have to repeat herself if I had listened. She didn't say it like that, she insulted me, but I don't for the life of me remember what she said. I was too busy trying to figure out why she was talking to me. It takes me a moment to realize she thinks I work there. I politely tell her she is mistaken. We've never spoken, and I do not work here. She tells me she sees me there all the time and she just spoke to me. That she isn't stupid. I told her I didn't think she was, just that she was mistaken. I went to tell her that I'm not even dressed like I work there, but my jacket was in the cart. It's a bomber jacket that gets stupid hot indoors. So you can see my outfit, and I am wearing a sweater vest from my college, a polo, khakis and Timberlands. I kind of do look like I work there. The sweater vest is indeed blue, though not the same blue as the aprons you see around. I point to the team logo on my vest and reiterate that I don't work there, and she is mistaken. That's when things go from weird to this woman is insane. Paris pokes her head out of the aisle behind me and asks if I can grab one of the boxes of noodles at the top. The full box is in plastic. The flavor she likes doesn't have enough individual ones for her liking. She's a fan of duck flavor. I apologize and dismiss myself from the lady's presence and go to help Paris. This was apparently a bad move, because watching me help Paris get her ramen, and then grabbing several other things from high shelves pissed the lady off. Keep in mind Paris is like 5'2" in wedge shoes. She's like a slightly tall child, to be honest. She starts in at me, loud as a banshee, giving me the "I knew you worked here." She starts yelling. Her language is colorful, and she seems to have a particular stick where it shouldn't because she thinks I am helping Paris because she is younger and pretty, instead of helping a real woman like her. I must have had a look on my face, because she gave me a "I'll have you know plenty of men find me attractive," and said some pretty disparaging things at Paris' expense. My cousin and I aren't all that close. In fact, she's a bit of a spoiled brat, and our relationship is contentious at best. She and her sister are usually selfish, big-headed, and disrespectful. I'm not often very fond of her. However, she is my cousin, and you best believe you ain't gonna disrespect her in my presence. If I'm being honest, I probably wouldn't let you disrespect her sister London either, and I can't stand. I say, "Look here, lady, I understand you're having some kind of identity crisis," gesturing at her outfit. "But I can assure you that I do not work here. My cousin is not some hot girl I'm helping instead of you. We've never spoken before, and despite what the police would have you believe, we do not all look alike." She then accuses me of calling her racist, which I laugh at as she tells me, "I'll have you know that I've dated black guys," which Paris chimes in, letting her know that she can date as many black guys as she wants, and that doesn't make her not racist. The woman said she doesn't hate black people and we're racist for assuming she does. This pisses off Paris, who tells her she ain't got to hate black people to be racist, just thinking that being white makes her better or them worse. You ain't gotta hate nobody to treat them different 'cause you all up in your head. Which, gonna have to give her a gold star for. I'll be real, never expected to hear something like that from her. It took a bit, but the commotion finally got the attention of a worker who came over. He is a black guy, as tall as me, carrying several items in his hands. I cannot express enough how much he looks nothing like me. I turn to midlife crisis, and I can see the recognition on her face when she looks at him. He is skinny as sin. I used to be a defensive lineman. I've never been skinny. He immediately asks if there's a problem and starts handing her things. apologizing cause the item she was looking for had been in the area it was supposed to be, just moved from where she remembered it being, which is code for, you should have taken 5 seconds to look around. She is stunned silent for like 2 whole minutes, like you can see the clockwork going on in her head. She wants to say something, but she keeps looking up trying to figure out how she mistook me for this guy. She shoots Paris a dirty look cause she's giggling like an idiot. Lady wants to say something so bad, but she holds back, to her credit. Her skin reddens like a tomato and her face is like going through emotions. It's like if she was an actress that was told to emote just with her face. Her acting coach would have applauded her cause she was running the gambit. Lots of head nods and everything, like she is having a heated conversation in her head. She then starts stammering. I know she wants to continue this argument, but she's lost all footing cause I step over next to the guy to illustrate how little we resemble each other. Paris is laughing so hard by now. I look at the guy and say, she just confused me for you. I mean, can you blame her? We could be twins. He looked at me funny for a moment and then realized what happened and gave the look that all black people give each other in these situations, which is basically us thinking. The caucasity. I very politely, but very condescendingly tell the lady, I'm happy you found your man and I hope the rest of your day is exceptional. I find being polite is a better screw you than any other alternative. Paris hit her with a have a nice day, Karen, with no emphasis on the Karen, and we just walked away. I have to admit, despite our differences, I was very proud of my cousin for that. She's not known for sticking up for anyone. She's kind of spoiled. But I was happy she stood up for me, because I might have said some things more foul if she hadn't. After we left, I took her to get ice cream. She's in her early 20s, not a child, but she still likes ice cream. It took a bit, but the commotion finally got the attention of a worker who came over. He was a black man, as tall as me, carrying several items in his hands. I cannot express enough how much he looked nothing like me. I turned to the woman and could see the recognition on her face when she looked at him. He was extremely skinny. I used to be a defensive lineman. I've never been skinny. He immediately asked if there was a problem and started handing her things, apologizing because the item she was looking for had been in the area. It was supposed to be just moved from where she remembered it being, which is code for, you should have taken 5 seconds to look around. She was stunned silent for 2 whole minutes. You could see the clockwork going on in her head. She wanted to say something but kept looking up, trying to figure out how she mistook me for this guy. She shot Paris a dirty look because she was giggling like an amused child. The lady wanted to say something so badly, but, to her credit, she held back. Her skin reddened like a tomato, and her face ran through a series of emotions. It was like if she were an actress told to show a range using only her face. Her acting coach would have applauded her. She ran the whole gamut. Lots of head nods, like she was having an internal conversation. She then started stammering. I knew she wanted to continue the argument, but she had lost all footing because I stepped next to the employee to illustrate how little we resembled each other. Paris was laughing so hard by then. I looked at the guy and said, she just confused me for you. I mean, can you blame her? We could be twins. He looked at me funny for a moment, then realized what happened, and gave the look that all black people give each other in these situations, which basically says, the nerve. I very politely but very condescendingly told the lady, I'm happy you found your man, and I hope the rest of your day is exceptional. I find being polite is a better way to make a point than any other alternative. Paris hit her with a, have a nice day, Karen, with no emphasis on the name, and we just walked away. I have to admit, despite our differences, I was very proud of my cousin for that. She's not known for standing up for anyone. She's kind of spoiled. But I was happy she stood up for me because I might have said some things that weren't as kind if she hadn't. After we left, I took her to get ice cream. She's in her early 20s, not a child, but she still enjoys ice cream. Story 6. Long-time lurker, first-time poster. After this holiday season, though this subreddit keeps getting brought back to mind at least once a month. First instance of this, I actually do work there. I wasn't clocked in though. It was a busy day at a well-known edgy mall store in the US with an infamous back wall. Our particular store is quite cramped. I walked in maybe an hour before work with my coat on, a drink in one hand, and mall food in the other, hoping to kick back and eat my lunch before my shift started. I have to pause around every other corner as it was a busy day, and there's not really any other way to get around people at this store when it fills up. I stopped for maybe 2 seconds in front of a jewelry case, and these two girls perk up and say, "Can we get this out of the case?" I stare at them like a deer in headlights. My hands were full, and I wasn't even wearing my lanyard yet. They just stared back until I responded with a, "Hold on, let me find an employee." Like, dude. 2. This particular day, I had maybe an hour or two of sleep. You know those days where you're doing stuff all day, you're tired as hell, then insomnia decides to kick in? Yeah, I was mad, I was tired, I had to be at work in a couple hours. When I got to work, I decided to take the bookstore entrance to kill some time before my shift. Walked right in through the door, made no stops between the front door and the D&D display. I picked up the cookbook that just came out and got the tiniest little serotonin boost. Just as I started to flip through the pages, this woman grabs my shoulder and asks as firmly as her grip, "Do you work here?" I didn't have the energy for this. All that came out of me was a solid no. She sneered at me like this answer offended her somehow and stomped her way back to the help kiosk. As she made her way back, the employee on the phone gave me a confused and concerned look. "Lady, even if I worked there, that gives you no right to grab me. COVID or not, please do not touch people like that." 3. Apparently I'm a barista too. I was hanging around a cafe downstairs after work one day waiting for my partner to get off work and ride home together. I was standing around the drink pickup just talking to the employees. I had a drink in hand, coat folded in my arms, and a pink button-up covered in flamingos in top hats and bow ties on. A girl walks up to me and asks, "Do you have smoothies?" My partner notices and comes to answer. Girl makes eye contact with me again. "How much are the smoothies?" My partner answers again. She looks at him every time, but always returns eye contact with me and asks a very direct question. I'm not sure what's going on at this point. She goes as far as to try and place an order with me. I'm not sure how she still thinks I work there, as my partner who's answering her questions is wearing the uniform with the cafe logo stamped on the left side, and I'm in a flamingo shirt. 4. I know it's stupid, but something in me tugged me towards entering a sweepstakes for winning up to $10K for window installations. As I was filling out the form, the associate asked me if I was a school teacher. I looked down at my choice of clothing real quick, and I was wearing cargo pants with a sweater with a wizard's barge design on it. He chuckled and told me that I have the handwriting of a teacher. Thank you. 5. Fifth and finally, this happened last week at a local craft chain. Store uniform, light green aprons with the store logo on front. My outfit of the day, sweater vest over a red button-up with black pants and platforms. I was in the back looking at the Copics with my partner as I heard a woman shout down the aisle, "Excuse me, can you direct me to the leather bracelet kits?" Again, staring in confusion like maybe if I pause they'll get it? Not a chance. Me, "I'm sorry ma'am, I don't work here. However, if you keep walking down these aisles, you'll find the kits you're looking for near the jewelry section." Her, "Oh, I'm sorry, you just look so official. I thought you were a manager here." Okay, I get the sweater vest, but the shoes though. Sorry, these stories are all pretty tame aside for the bookstore Karen grabbing me. I've just never been assumed to be an employee anywhere before, and all of a sudden, it's happened at least once a month.